Hey, everybody, welcome back to the WorkHappy podcast, the podcast where we interview people, normal, everyday people doing extraordinary things, people who've learned how to work happy and use their positivity to make the world a better place. And today, we have another great guest, a friend of mine we met actually online, and it wasn't in the classifieds, but it was we met in a speakers group. We've become fast friends, and we accidentally kind of ran into each other in Vegas at an event. We didn't know we were both going until a couple of days before. He's in sales, a positive guy. He started a group on Facebook for Power Plant Food Networks. His name is Jason Wange. Hey, Jason, how are you, buddy?
Greg, yo, brother, great. Thanks for having me. I love being here.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you. Every time I see your name or a post or we talk on the phone, my day is better because we both are in the positivity realm, mental health. How do we stay happy? How do we prepare ourselves? And I'm just grateful that you're a friend, a mentor, and now a podcast guest. So thanks for being on, man.
I love it, brother. How did we meet? We met, I think it was it was on Facebook. We're both a part of a group.
Yeah, Jake
And
Valentine.
on sort of, Jake Steele on sharing our story with others and connecting with others. Like, how do you make the world a better place to some degree? And of
Yeah.
course, you started it with all your awesome comedic stuff. And what was your group called originally before WorkHappy, your Facebook group, which still exists?
The Humor Lab.
Humor Lab. There we go. So
Yeah,
you started Humor Lab. I went in the direction of food service because that's my world. That's where I live.
yeah,
And we got connected through Jake. And then you came on the Food Service Power Plant Network show and you did a
yeah,
stand-up act, if you recall,
yeah.
which
And
slayed us. There were
COVID.
so many people on that show. It was early on. It was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to be back here with you. And truly, you're right. Like, I couldn't be more grateful for the friendship. When I realized, or you realized, that we were going to be at the same conference in Vegas,
Yeah.
and we got to finally meet in person, and I got to watch you speak and do your deal. It's been such a gift, and you've become a really good friend, man.
Well, good. No, I appreciate you, man. Why don't you just start us off? Tell our listeners a little bit about Jason, how you came to start the food service power plant, a little bit about your journey and what makes you happy every day.
I love it. So the Food Service Power Plant Network started when I was unemployed. I've been in food service. I was a history teacher to start my career. I taught history for 8 years in high school and middle school. And then I transitioned into the food service world. My dad was in food service selling like supplies and equipment. So in restaurants, of course, they're giving you food, but you eat off that food and there's a piece of equipment that cooks that food and all this kind of stuff. And so he was in that world. I joined his business in 2008, ended up buying him out a few years later and did that for 12 years. And I was transitioning my career right when COVID happened. I had kind of sold my part of the business to my partners. I was going to go do something else because our families had quite a few health challenges. My wife's had quite a few things, and my daughter, and I wasn't really able to sustain the energy to manage our business and be as present at home as I wanted to be. So I went to my partners. I'm like, guys, I got to leave. I don't know what I'm doing next. And it just turned out that the week COVID began was the week that we'd planned for me to leave, to step away. So I know the timing was unique. Turned out to be a
Thank you,
gift,
Murphy.
really. I know, right? It turned out to be amazing. I was going to go work for this company called Calmo, which is where I ended up going. But instead of having a 3-week vacation, I had 10 weeks of unemployment. And during that time, I don't really just sit around very much. And I had all these positive mindset tools that I had learned over the last 15 years. My 20s were spent living in a fair amount of anxiety and depression, and, pretty brutal at times. Times where I was in a stay in a psychiatric hospital. And for the better part of a decade, I was supported by the help of antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds, and antipsychotics. I mean, there were seasons that were really, really dark. And anyway, it was reading a book called Success Principles by Jack Canfield that changed my life. That would have been December of 2008. I read that book. I won it at a White Elephant Gift Christmas party, actually. Read that book, started implementing. I wrote my first vision statement, started writing affirmations, and my world flipped. And so from that point on, I became addicted to this stuff. So from 2008 to January 2009 till today, I just started studying it. I became addicted to it. I'd go to Jack Canfield conferences and Brennan Burchard conferences and studied Brene Brown and all these people. So when COVID hit and I was home, I'm like, well, I've got tools that can help change our perspective to one more positive in nature in times of challenge. So I started putting out these videos to my industry. Hey, here's what laughter can do. Laughter was my first one, Greg, because laughter releases endorphins in our body to fight cortisol, our body stress hormone. And we all know how to laugh. We all inherently laugh to some degree. So I did that and a bunch of others. And then we created a community, the Food Service Power Plant Network on Facebook. We've got now about 2,100 people, all generally, not all of them. Anyone can really join, but most are in the food service industry. And we offer positive mindset tools. We offer laughter. We do these weekly live interviews where we interview an industry leader who shares their story and so forth. So that's kind of how it all began, was in that moment of COVID when I was home, mildly anxious that I was unemployed and I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know what was coming next. And just in a moment where I realized I had some things that might be able to help people.
No, that's awesome. And I love how, it seems like that one moment where you got this book at a white elephant gift, probably nobody else wanted it. But you took what was in it and it resonated with you at the time and how it really changed your life.
I told Shannon, I gave a talk last week up in Seattle. I was up in Tacoma at a conference. And in addition to doing what I do for Cowmill, we had a booth and we showed all our stuff that we do. And I also gave a 20-minute, their version of a TED Talk. And it was on mental health and self-care. So I told that story again. And I actually, believe it or not, at the end of the White Elephant Gift Christmas party, I had a 6-pack of beer. And my friend Doug had the book. My friend Doug won the book. I won the beer. And I looked at him, I said, listen, man, I don't drink beer and you don't read. So we traded because he liked beer and I wanted the book. And I said to Shannon, my wife, this weekend, I got home from this trip. And after having told the story, I was like, I wonder what my life would look like had I not made that trade. I think it would look dramatically different. And that trade is one of the most pivotal moments in my whole journey. And I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah. Well, and not only it changed your life, but it changed your family as well, too. And now at least 2,100 people that we know of who are a part of the group. But, like we were talking earlier, we kind of accidentally ran into each other in Vegas. And it was just such a joy. I was speaking, I was nervous, but you're like, Greg, you got this. You're going to do fine. And you came in the room and it was great. Because once you walked in the room, there were 7 people instead of 6. So you made it much more easier on me. But yeah, tell us a little bit more, if you don't mind, Jason, about what do you do to work happy or have that positive mindset? Because a lot of people talk to me and they go, well, once I'm happy, am I happy? I'm like, no, it's a daily thing that even there's days I wake up, I'm like, oh no, another day in the small office right here. What do you do? Do you have a morning routine, that type of thing to start your day?
100% I do. Yeah, over time, you build up these new habits and you try things on, right? You're like, I'm going to try this and see if this works. And if this elevates me, if this lifts me up, if it changes my mindset, whatever it is. And there's a whole bunch of things. My general morning routine is there's a couch right behind me. I sit on that couch. I've got my slippers on. I got a cup of coffee. I write 5 things in my gratitude journal. Got a journal where I write lots of stuff, but I've got pages of gratitude. It's 5 quick things. Some of them are deep. I love that I get to do something I love. I'm grateful for my family, my wife and children. And some of them are really simple. I'm grateful for the electricians that installed the outlets in this room and the light that's over the couch, whatever that is. And then I've been into doing, I don't know, for a while now, just a couple deep breathing deals. I listen, there's an app someone turned me on to. There's tons of different apps on all this kind of stuff, meditation stuff. I listen to one called Insight Timer. No connection, but there's little breathing exercises. There's a 4 or 5 minute one on box breathing that I do. So I do some breathing. Breathing is so good just for like creating a place of calm and centering. So I do that. And then I read affirmations. I think I might have them in my drawer. I keep them in my drawer. And then I have one in my backpack for when I travel. And then I actually have it in my shower, Greg. So I write these, no joke. So positive affirmations, right? Like the things we say, we come to believe. So I laminate it. I don't know if you can see it's laminated.
Yeah.
And so I have
that's
one
awesome.
in my drawer, one in my backpack. So when I travel, and then I put up like a hook in my shower and I hung it like on the glass in front of me. So I'm like, washing my hair, I can read these positive affirmations to start the day. So I'll read a couple of these, things like incredible opportunities are everywhere today. So in my Kamal job or whatever, like I'm looking for opportunities. Today is one joyous experience after another. I'm now open to the unlimited possibility that exists everywhere, whatever it is. So I end up looking for the
awesome.
good. Yeah, it's fun. So that's kind of oftentimes how I start my day.
Yeah, no, and I found the same thing too. There's a book I recently read. My friend Jeff McLaughlin sent it to me. It's called Breath by James Nestor. And he goes through the history of humankind and how we breathe and how it's been different over the years. And, now we don't even think about it. We're breathing until, oh, look, I told you to turn your phone off and mine's dinging. Funny. But breathing, right? And how it's changed. And like you said, the box breathing, I do that for 5 minutes every morning. Or if something goes sideways with my job or a bad phone call, I'm stressed, whatever. And it really brings your stress down. It lowers your blood pressure. I had to go to the doctor this morning and I wanted good blood pressure. So I was waiting for a half hour. I was doing box breathing. But there's so many things that we can do that really helps. I love those affirmations. I would love to. Did you write those, or did you just find those affirmations and then print them out? And
it's a
laminate?
Mixture. It's stuff. It's stuff I've heard from lots of people over the years that really moved me. I first started learning about affirmations, from Jack Canfield's book, and then I heard a whole affirmation CD. I mean, this is 15 years ago, maybe, from Louise Hay. She had a whole deal on it, so I put a lot of those in there, and then I love Brennan Burchard's and then some of my own. So it's just Tony Robbins. There's a great one from Tony Robbins. So I just take ones that move me and I throw them in there and I categorize them. So there's affirmations that are personal in nature. There's some that are based on my career, some based on our family life, finances, health, relationships, etc. So I sort of segment them and go through them.
Yeah, that's awesome, right? Because no matter where we are, news and stuff on social media always creep in.
Yep.
And one of my goals in 2023 and my purpose is to make happiness go viral, right? It's always so doom and gloom. And that's why I love being on LinkedIn more than Facebook, just because usually it's Facebook. Somebody's getting a job promotion or somebody's doing this or somebody's doing that. But I like that. And I want to start doing those personal affirmations. I have both in a paper file and on my phone, I have a happy file. So if I get a thank you card, like I got one for my daughter, right? And she wrote awesome stuff, right? I at 49, I got this card and I started to cry. I mean, it makes me happy. So that one's sitting on my desk. But even if my phone, like if somebody gives a shout out about WorkHappy, I'll take a screenshot of it and then drop it in my happy folder. And when I'm having those days or those moments, I can go back and read those and going, all right, it is taking hold and it is paying off. So I love that affirmation though. That's great.
Yeah, there's so many tools that we can build up over time to support our growth. And you're right. You said you can do it. I went in this talk, I said, taking care of ourselves, it's almost like in the restaurant world, we put an oven in a kitchen, right? Like a kitchen gets a 6-burner range. And we always tell the customer, hey, take care of this daily. Let's do preventative maintenance. You don't just want to wait till Saturday night when this thing goes down. And you need to call someone to come fix it. There's an element of, in moments of challenge, I have a couple of go-tos, and we call it positive mindset mise en place in my world. I created this thing of all these tools you can do in moments of challenge. You can do it in those moments to bring you back to a place of center, recall create a new perception of the moment to find the good in it as opposed to all that stinks, because we have a choice in those moments. And there is both if we look for them. And then also those routine things, that preventative maintenance that really over time, the more you do, like gratitude, you think about it, Greg, when we make gratitude a discipline, when we make it a habit, then we end up changing the way when we look at the world, we end up looking for that which is good in the moment simply by
Absolutely.
making gratitude a discipline. And that changes our perspective of our story. A thing that 10 years ago we would have looked at and been like, oh, son of a gun, or that thing really
Yeah.
stinks. Now we might not like it still, like if it's a tough moment, but we might end up finding the glass half full in that moment. And well, here's the benefit here. Take COVID. The power plant started when I realized I was going to be unemployed. I didn't realize at the time it was going to be 10 weeks. But in that moment where I happened to choose, when I say I left my job on March 20th and we'd planned this day for months, people were like, wow, that's crappy timing. Well, maybe, but it also gave me a space emotionally and mentally. I didn't have a job anymore. Like I wasn't solving all our problems. Now I had space to create this new community. I would say there couldn't have been better timing for me to quit my job, because it put me in a mindset where I could engage fully creatively and just serve. So, we end up looking for those things in my life. Also, of course, there's coaches that I work with at various times. There's therapists in moments of challenge that I'm working with to if I feel stuck in an area, or if I notice for a long period of time, gosh, I can't seem to get over this, or this moment happened and I'm still dwelling on it, then I'll go work with my friend Kathy, who helps me process from a different person. She's a different set of eyes to look at it and be like, Jason, have you ever thought about it this way? Well, no, I hadn't, but now I am. And that actually makes it a little bit lighter. So all of those, there's just a whole host of things, exercise and walking, of course. I exercise for at least 20 minutes most days. Yesterday, it was on the bike in the basement. The day before, Sunday, it was a quick 2-mile run. There's some push-ups, all these things that we do to create the life we long for, this element of happy. And in my case, because there was such a challenging period of time, I also do these things in an effort to never end up there again if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great. And I love that, different perspective. You talking to your friend Kathy. Have you looked at it this way? And I don't know where I've heard this, but it's always stuck with me. But it's hard to read the label when you're sitting inside the jar.
Wow, I've never heard
Right?
that, but yeah.
It's
Holy
right,
smokes.
because you're like, well, there are a second pair of eyes, and just because I've had all this experience doesn't mean I see it right every time. I make mistakes. But if I can get somebody else, whether it's my wife or my kid or my coach, my counselor, it's one more way to do it. And the whole gratitude thing, and I think another reason why we're fast friends, because I lost my job on March 18th, and you quit your job on the 20th.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh gosh.
I thought, what, I'm going to be in my office. How am I going to make people laugh? And that's why I started the Humor Lab group, and it's so great. And the only two things that I said I want it to be PG-13, so my grandma can read it or my kid can read it, and no politics, right? Because everything was blown up at the time. And one night I started this group and I sent it out to like 20 of my friends and said, hey, please share this as a way for everybody to share their sense of humor. And I think we're over 36,000, across 20 countries. But the coolest thing, Jason, it's not about me. I started it and got lucky. That's it. It's all about people sharing, whether it's dad jokes or puns or whatever it is. But I always get messages from people saying, thank you so much. I was struggling, and when I have a bad day, I go to the Humor Lab. And it's such a blessing, because that makes me happy when I hear other people are having a laugh when they need it. Maybe, at the most opportune moment for them in their lives.
Greg, it's the same for me. I mean, it's not just an anecdotal tool. It's a real scientific tool to help bring us back to a place of calm, a place of centered and moment anxiety, to combat that. And we really do see our experience differently when we can release some of those endorphins into our body. I mean, so you're right. Like when there's moments in challenge, I'll go to Humor Lab. I'll go look at like a 3-minute clip of Jim Gaffigan on YouTube or something. I might watch Hot Pockets. Oh, there's so many places I could go with that. So, or like I'll watch an episode of Seinfeld or Arrested Development. And there are tangible health benefits that come from laughter. I mean, and it's something, the reason it was so, I mean, brilliant. You love laughing. You're a comedian.
Yeah.
This is what you do. You enjoy helping others laugh. And it's universal to the human nature. We all inherently, as kids, at some point, maybe it's 10 months old, I don't know, our mom or dad or aunt or grandma or someone tickled us and we or did a silly face and we start laughing. It's born into us, and it's something that I think universally everyone enjoys doing. I've yet to meet anyone that's like, oh, laughter, blah. We all enjoy a good laugh. So I think it was brilliant for you to start that. And it was not just brilliant, but you just started something that was a part of your nature, that was in your heart, because you're already doing it. You're already doing stand-up. You're already making people laugh. And now you get to do it just a little bit more as your role, and what you do for a living to some degree.
Yeah. And the science behind laughter is amazing, but I know it personally works. And I share the story in my keynotes when I speak to organizations. But as you know, most people might not know, but my stepdaughter lost her dad to suicide. And 2 nights before, I had arranged a meet and greet with Brian Regan. We were going to the show, and because I was a comedian and through connections, I got a meet and greet with Brian, but I didn't tell Rachel until we got to the event. And I was, at the time, I was working for the hockey team, and I said, oh, there's my office door. And so she knocks on the door opens up, and Brian's like, Rachel, thanks so much for coming to my show. And she was just like,
so
right?
awesome.
So we had a 5-minute meet and greet with the guy, and then he did me a solid. We went to get our seats. I went to pick up the tickets at will call, and he had switched our seats. We were front row, dead center, like right in front. So we had this whole show with Brian Regan. We were laughing hysterically. We were retelling the jokes on the way home. And then 2 nights later, we found out that her dad had passed. And it was devastating for all of us, especially Rachel. But during, after the counseling and stuff, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks after. And we were sitting around the dinner table, and Rachel started crying, and then Becky started crying, and I started crying. And I said, all right, let's put a time out on dinner. We went and sat on the couch, turned on Brian Regan, and Jason, literally within 10 minutes, we were all laughing again. So it didn't take away the pain, but it got us through it, right? And there's countless times that, if I'm having a bad day, and I tell people this, start your day with laughter. Put it in your calendar for 5 minutes, right? And obviously it's 2023, so we need to be careful what we listen to in the workplace. That makes us laugh, but it works for my family. It's worked for me, and the science backs it up as well.
I love it, Greg. Brilliant. I think it's brilliant. It's a great tool to use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you're working for CalMill. You have your food service power plant network, and you're now speaking, which I'm thrilled, because we had a conversation, probably about 2 weeks ago. We were talking about business and talking about shop, and at the end of the call, you said, thank you so much for reaching out. You said, you always seem to pick the right day that I need an extra dose of Greg Kettner. And that day, I was struggling that day. And so it was almost selfish, because I'm like, I need a dose from you, Jason. But tell us a little bit about what you speak about, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm speak, a couple different topics. Usually it's within food service, although I'm branching outside of that a little bit. We've got a speaking agency that's brought me on, so doing that. But it's all around personal growth, generating energy and enthusiasm. I came from a place where there was that decade that was best described for me as depression, which is an absence of energy, where some days the best I had were literally to get out of my bed, head right into my closet, get on my knees and just cry. That's the best I had, and a lot of those days. And then, kind of when my life flipped around with the help of that book, but also the help of a community that really believed in me and kept me going through that decade. My wife, Shannon, who was just instrumental in really me staying alive. There was a period there for about a year where she had to hide all the meds I was on, and she had to give me my allotted doses out of fear that I might make a bad decision. So there's elements of growth, and there's this food service power plant framework, this idea of here's the steps that a chef takes to create a meal, that are also the steps that we use in generating energy and enthusiasm in our lives. For a chef, it's, a chef has to decide first what meal they want to make if they're going to create a new meal, right? What do I want to do? Do I want to do a new fresh take on my grandma's lasagna, or do I want to do a prime rib that no one's ever been done, that hasn't been done or whatever? And for us, it's all about vision. What do we want to create? It's really hard to get moving forward if you don't know what you want to build, what you want to make, how you want to feel. Next, a chef has to take total ownership of that meal. For us, it's taking responsibility for the outcomes in our lives. Oftentimes, we don't accomplish the things we want because we blame life's events or we blame other people for why we're not making progress. Oh, it's on us. Taking ownership is huge because that allows us to move forward. Next, for us, for a chef, they've got to sharpen their tools. Once they decide what they're going to make, for us, those tools are goal setting and power of visualization, affirmations, like I read you today, et cetera. After that, a chef needs to decide who's cooking in their kitchen with them, who's going to be their sous chef, who's their expediter, who's on the line, who's washing dishes, et cetera. And for us, who we surround ourselves with. Kettner, there's a reason you're in my life, man. You lift me up. I am in a better position to be the man I want to be because I've got someone like you in my life and a host of other people that uplift me, people I'm leveling up with, growing with, people who encourage me in my dreams and don't, deflate me, et cetera. Next, it's choosing the right ingredients. A chef has to choose the best ingredients. For us, it's all about those happy chemicals. So it's actually actively putting things into my schedule that release those happy chemicals. So there's 4, right? There's endorphins, which laughter does. So does exercise. So does red wine and dark chocolate, by the way. You're welcome. I know you like wine. Your wine. There's dopamine, which of course is our pride chemical. There's serotonin, which is the love hormone, and oxytocin. Which, et cetera. So all of those things are wonderful things. So how do we do things in our lives intentionally to release each of those? After that, a chef needs to cook. For us, it's all about taking action, taking immediate action. How do we build habits, things like that? And then lastly, a chef needs to taste it. They need to find out if it's good and make it better. And for us, it's all about getting feedback in our lives. And then once we get that feedback, knowing how to fail in positive ways. So you don't take failure as a negative. You don't let it stunt your growth. And then how do we grow on it? So I talk all about growth and energy. And then I also talk about mental health. The talk I just gave last week, I've done a couple of these now. I gave one in Chicago. It's called Of Course You Are. And it's all about helping people. One of the biggest barriers to our moving forward in times where we're struggling mentally or emotionally is we don't want to be honest about it, right? There's this, we do what my friend Dave calls armor up, right? I'm tough. I got this. There's nothing wrong. I want the world to think that I'm just in a great spot. And it is really hard to move forward if we are unwilling to be honest. So it's a message all about, of course, you're having a tough time. Of course, you're anxious. Of course, you feel afraid. So I share some of my story to give people the freedom to be okay with theirs. And then talk about wellness tools and things they can do in order to move forward. So that one I've given a couple of times now. Both times I haven't been able to ratchet in the emotion. And I end up kind of just crying a little bit throughout because I get so emotional. My buddy Kurt was in the front row last week. He goes, Wange, I think some of your tears ended up on me. As you're crying, I'm in the front row. I said, I feel like this talk, it's like when you go to Disney and they encourage you to wear a rain jacket, on Splash Mountain. I feel like my talks, you might need to wear a rain jacket if you're in the front row, because I get a little emotional. But it's that willingness to be authentic with our experience that allows people to do the same. If I'm not brutally honest about my story, no one else is going to have the courage to do that. And so I get real and hopefully create a safe place for people to acknowledge wherever it is they are. And then in doing so, get the support they need and make, the decisions and build those tools to move forward. I think I don't know if it was Canfield who said, but it's really hard to get from where we are to where we want to be if we're unwilling to be honest about where we are. So that's kind of what that message is about. So, and I'm doing it all over. I did in Seattle for a company, Bargrade Ellingsing, last week. Our industry has our version of a TED Talk. It's called a Fed Talk. Put on by a group, Food Service Equipment and Supply Magazine. They're great friends and a supporting partner. So I went to Chicago and I did 18 minutes on that. I'm doing, in 2 weeks, I'll be in Orlando speaking for an association of food service consultants, 350 people. They design all the kitchens that you go into in the hospital food service and hotel food service. So I'm going to go speak to them on wellness, et cetera. And, Yeah, all over. It's fun. And then of course I do cow mill too. So I cover half the country for cow mill. We make beverage dispensers and chafing dishes and everything that ends up in a stadium suite or a hotel breakfast buffet, all this kind of jazz. So
Yeah.
it's really fun. I feel really lucky.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jason, thank you so much for all this great knowledge and just your energy. I'm much more happier and motivated than when we started started this podcast. So I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for all you do. Where is the best place that people can reach out to you who are listening, whether they're on their treadmill or their car? If you're driving, don't write this down. Go back and listen to it. But where can people reach out to you, Jason?
Heck yes, I love it, Greg. By the way, I'm grateful for you too, brother. Love you too. Places to find me, probably easiest place. We have a website, FS, so that's franksampowerplant.com. There, you can see all the conversations. We do these weekly live interviews, as you know, with industry leaders.
Yeah.
They're fun because there's lots of people on them, and you can listen. We've done almost 100 of them. And this is all with leaders from food service. And then people can download those, listen to those. Certainly, you can go, if you're on Facebook, you can come search for the Food Service Power Plant Network. Feel free to join our community. And you can always find me on LinkedIn. Go look for Jason Wange. It's Wange. Connect with me. You can reach out, message me. And as well on that website, fspowerplant.com, there's a speaking tab as well. You can go find that. You can see a few different reels of me speaking. And then there's about, I don't know, probably 10 buttons where you can click to connect with me, and I'd be happy to talk about an event.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jason. I really appreciate it. Cannot wait till we play a round of golf or share a stage somewhere soon.
I love it. Both of those are on my bucket list as well, Greg. I can't wait to get beaten by you at golf, and I look forward to the day where we get to laugh and share some stories, probably do a little crying, and offer our experiences to some community in order to allow them to be where they are and move forward too, brother. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Again, I appreciate it, Jason. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks, Greg.
Hey, everyone. Thanks again for tuning into the WorkHappy podcast. Jason, what just a genuine guy. If you get the chance, I don't even care if you're not in the food service industry, you need to connect with this guy if you want to learn how to work happy and be more positive. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with everybody that you know. You can always find me if you or your organization are looking for more ways to work happy and possibly how to normalize mental health conversations at work. Tune in again next week, same time, same place. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon. Cheers.